So when we're talking about riding and spinal pain, we have to address the whole rider, from stirrup all the way to head. And the midpoint is the hip joint. So what is critical is we learn how to coordinate hip joint motion with torso motion. What we need to do, step one, when we're on the horse, is we need to take the strengthening that we have learned from our off-horse strengthening program, be it rehab or on your own, and translate it to what happens on the horse. First step we need to do when we do that is we need to have the rider suck in their gut. So as the rider sucks in their gut, we want to make sure that the muscles in the back turn on. If the rider starts to go into slouch, this takes away from the spine's efficiency to manage the impulse of the horse and its own load-bearing capacity. So we want to make sure that they are up tall to activate the muscles in the back, and they suck in their gut to activate the muscles in the front. And that becomes the first step in coordinating a stable base with a stable torso. So we've now turned on the muscles of the torso. But in order to have stability at the spine, we need to have stability at the foot. We have these contact forces that occur between the horse and the ground, and they get transmitted to the rider. Now obviously the highest contact forces are when the rider is sitting the trot and their butt never comes out of the seat. And then we have less contact force when the rider does a half seat, and then the least amount of contact force is when the rider is obviously up out of the saddle. But in order to effectively do that and maintain stability, we have to make sure that the base is stable. So what we want to do, make sure that our stirrup leathers are the same length, and that means from the attachment to the base. If they are more than 1 centimeter different, we need to address that difference. When we talk about making the foot stable, we want the foot to be fully supported by the stirrup. And that usually means putting the outside branch in line with the little toe, inside branch in line with the big toe, so that it forms an angle and all 5 balls of the toe is supported. See, he's even shaking his head to agree with me. Now for those that have a little bit harder time or are not feeling comfortable with this position, what we like to do is maybe move this stirrup back to a little more cavalry position or a home foot. What that does makes the ankle a little bit more stable because it gives it a base to work from. Now, calf muscle has to be engaged, which means if you're constantly trying to fight this, you're taking away from the stability of the lower leg from the knee to the foot. So we want to make sure that the sole is level. Once the sole is level, now the rider can open the knee, off the knee block, and step down into the stirrup. Not off of its base, but down into it. Once the knee is open, now we start to coordinate hip joint to the foot. We talked about before how important it is to coordinate the muscles of the hip with the muscles of the torso. We turn the torso muscles on by sucking in and sitting up tall. Now we keep that position and we start to utilize the hip joint by slouching and coming up tall. Come right up tall through the hip joint. There you go. Now come down and tall. And in this range, there's a comfort zone. And once you find that comfort spot, way up or way down, or way down, that's where you stay. You get a little range around there. What you don't want to do is, as you go through that motion, have your foot start to slide or your knee start to slide. So again, to summarize, managing back pain when you are on the horse involves several critical steps. The first and foremost being a rigorous and continuous off-horse strengthening program. Second, when you are on the horse, we want to make sure we have proper activation, sucking in the gut, standing up tall, starting to engage the hip joint. So then we now build the connection from the hip down to the foot. The knee off the block and stepping down into the stirrup, which we have underneath either the balls of all 5 toes or slightly behind that, a more home foot position.